What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Yesterday, I did a video on an incident or a time in Tehachapi, I'd say, and not a lot of people saw it. I think it got 8,000 views or something like that. But those that saw it, for the most part, it seemed like all the feedback was very positive. And so this morning I'm going to give you another Tehachapi story. Same period. This was more around before me and the OG got separated, before he got validated. And I want to just fill you guys in. So I've said it before in other videos, but those of you that didn't see that video, I'll explain it to you here. Tehachapi was a junkyard. We got there and we were the very first bus. I remember they were calling us the spearhead. And that we were going to go down and we were going to plant the flag and we were going to set the tone and all this stuff, They had a curfew there. If you were from Southern California, raza from Southern California, Mexican from Southern California, you ran with the Southerners, however you want to call it, however you want to say it. If you landed in Tehachapi, you had 90 days to get off. If you were there over 90 days and you came to the back, we refer to it as the back. If you came to the back, the hole, I'd say, and you were out there over 90 days, you were going to get dealt with, period, right? Now, if you were out there over 90 days, but you came back to the back for stabbing somebody, then you were going to just get put up to bat. You weren't going to get hit, but you were going to get put up to bat because you did violate it. There are instances where there were, I'll tell you one. There was a dude out there. He had at one point been a legend, and no longer was, and he was out there. And these two dudes from Lomas, shout out to everybody in Lomas SGV, they moved on him, slit his throat, came back, landed on our yard. They had been out there a year, but trip out on this, a year and a day, allegedly, right? And so when they came to the back, we questioned them. Hey, Holmes, why were you out there so long? You did good, but why were you out there so long? And the homie said, it took me 1 year. It took me a whole year to get this vato to let his guard down to where I could put my arm around him and kick it with him like, what's up, homie? He goes, the day after he let me put my arm around him, I got him. And what he did, he had the razor in his hand. And he put his arm around, hey, what's up? And then went all the way around. So there was a 90-day curfew there. Again, going back to other videos, the way it works is you're disciplined sometimes, most times, but it always comes into account every time. Your education, the level of your education as far as prison, will be used in determining things when it comes to you. It could be used in your favor, as an advantage, or a disadvantage. With that said, let's get in the story. So, as I said, every week there were buses coming. Actives coming, landing there, whacking dudes, whacking the dudes that were not good, were no good, considered no good, all this, right? And I mean, it was just going down, boom, 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 boom. But we had an incident where the bad guys, the ones that were considered no good, jumped on three dudes. Jumped on three dudes in the day room. And two of those dudes, I don't know where the third one went, actually. No. It was that incident. This incident, it was two dudes they jumped on, right? I'm not gonna say where they're from. It's not fair to that area. That. But they come to I'd say one of them at this point had been down 15 or 17 years. I don't remember which one it was, 15 or 17. He had been to the shoe, he had done work. The other one, this was his first prison, right? So the level of education when you're weighing out the two is completely different. And in a lot of times in those circumstances, you would blame the older one for whatever happened with the younger one. It's not always the case, but a lot of times be like, well, the youngster was following the OG. These dudes come back. We check their paperwork. They have been out there too long, over 90 days. I don't remember how long, but it was probably 5 months or something. So they were 2 months over. Well, one of them. The other one was a year. The youngster was like a year out there. But the one that, I hate to say it, the one that mattered, the one that's more serious, the one that had 15 to 17 years in, he had been out there like 5 months, right? Maybe 4. Maybe it was 4. And so everybody, we checked this stuff and we're like, okay, cool. Now, as I told you, we're always going to have juntas. We're always going to have meetings. In the meetings, we're going to decide the fate of these individuals. And as soon as they hit the yard, it goes down that yard, that first yard. Boom, let's go. One way or other, whatever it is. If they got to pass, they got to pass. In this case, you're out there 90 days, over 90 days, you got an issue coming. Okay. So this was a miracle. I'm going to tell you guys right now, this was a miracle. They came like right before committee, went to committee, and everybody's like, damn, how'd they go to committee so fast? The very first yard, from their arrival, they got released. They went to yard the day, usually that like 99% of the time, that's not going to happen. We're going to have at least 1-2 yards before they get cleared to come out, right? They came out the very first yard. So I had already talked to my cellie. I had talked to my neighbors. We shot kites back and forth. And we were on the same page, the 4 of us, right? But let me explain. Oh, no, let me just tell the story. So we go out to yard. Now, the dude that had been down 15, 17 years, he was a big dude, man. And I believe some of these cats that were on the yard with us were intimidated by his physicality, right? Not me. Not the dudes not me, my Sally, or the homies next door. No, man, I mean, it is what it is. So they came out and hey, Holmes, this and that. And I was like, and I told him straight out, the older dude, I said, look, Holmes, we're going to have to talk. You know that, right? He's like, yeah. I said, all right. So I called the junta. And I tell him, hey, you autos were aware of the curfew, right? And they were like, yeah, we were. So why were you out there so long, man? Like, I'm not even talking to the youngster. We'll get to him later, but I need to know from the OG. I said, so why were you out there so long? And he says, oh, well, the homie so-and-so was trying to get the llaves to the yard, and he had got at me, and he named the dudes that he had got at, right? And he was like, he had got at us and said, hey, we're going to take over. We're going to establish here this and this and that. Boo, boo. I said, yeah, but what's that got to do with the 90 days, homie? The 90 days don't move. And he's like, yeah, Holmes, but like he had got a letter, and the letter wasn't all the way clear, so he had to send a letter back, and we're waiting on the letter. I said, again, what about the 90 days, Holmes? And he's like, oh, well, look, I'm friends with, and he starts naming legends, right? I'm friends with this Mato. I mean, he knows me very well. You Matos can ask about it. I said, well, hey, Holmes, since you're throwing them names around like that, and you were out over 90 days, I'm pretty sure if they're really your friend, that's very, like, for him to name those names and say friend, they are friends. There's different terms you can use. But for him to say, I said, for you to say that, Holmes, I'm sure he would be very disappointed that one of his friends hung out on a junkyard for 90 days, over 90 days. If those are really your friends, as soon as you clear committee, you should have got off. Because if they embrace you as a friend, then they saw something in you that you wouldn't let them down. I said, I would think they're let down. But see, I had to engage this dude this way. I had to be stern with him because of who was on the yard. A lot of these dudes had never been anywhere. And I had to be an example, right? So I'm grilling the dude, and we're, talking back and forth. And he keeps talking about how the letter was on the way. I said, okay, so what happened? And he's like, oh, well, we're waiting on the letter. And, this vato was with me in Corcoran Shoe. And so this dude had got hit in Corcoran Shoe. He got hit and he cleaned it up, right? And he goes, and this dude was like, hey, Holmes, how you over here trying to politic? And you got hit your damn self. Why are you trying to be loyal to something that did something to you? The whole thing. He's telling me the thing, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, you just claim, I'm not saying it, but in my head, I'm thinking, you claiming that you're really associated with something that's extremely serious, and you letting this dude question you in front of people. He's clowning you, right? I'm thinking that, right? Like, the fuck? So that dude winds up taking off on the older cat that's on the yard with us, right? I laughed. They took out, it was like 3 or 4 of them took off on this dude and the youngster. And this dude and the youngster beat him down, but it wasn't the point. So again, he's back and forth, oh, but the letter, fuck that letter. So I said, listen, let me ask you a question. Hold on. If they wouldn't have rushed you, would you still be on the yard? He said, yeah, I'd be waiting on the letter. I said, okay, that's it. So I said, hey, let's put it to a vote. I said, just so you know, there's nobody here running nothing, Holmes. I said, everything's a majority rules. I said, since you came out, we're going to do the vote in front of you, and then we're going to go from there. And he's like, all right. First dude, I said, what's your vote, Holmes? He goes, nah, I don't think they have nothing coming, Holmes. They were waiting on the letter. And in my head, I'm like, a piece of my brain exploded. I was like, fucking vato, man. Next vato, nah, same reason. Next vato, nah. Every single dude on that yard, with the exception of me, my celly, and my 2 neighbors. Everyone else said they don't have an issue coming. Me, my celly, and my 2 neighbors. Well, my neighbors, 2 dudes in the cell next to me. We said they had an issue coming. And I told him, you got an issue coming, Holmes. I said, see, these rules are established by the legends. There shouldn't even be a vote. I said, everybody that voted no, voted against what they want. Not what I want, but what they want. I said, and they might have to answer up for that later. But there's nobody here, majority rules. I said, it is what it is. Now, I want to explain something to you guys. The vatos that were on that yard, every single one of them, my neighbors know, every one of them had been out there too long and had got disciplined when they landed in the oil. So instead of voting what was right, they voted that they didn't think they got done right. And they gave these vatos passes. And I already read this dude, knew who he was, what he was, right? So I said, before the junta broke up, I made an announcement. I said, listen, a lot of you vatos voted because you think what happened to you was wrong. You got to live with that. I said, when we break up right now and we go to handball, whatever you vatos are going to do right now, I said, it's over. It's been voted on. You can't come back later and tell me or tell anybody else, hey, I think I made a mistake. If you made a mistake, you made a mistake and you're going to live with it and maybe you learn from it. But this issue is dead. This was the one chance we had to discuss it, and we discussed it. It's over. After the junta, the older dude came straight up to me and he shook my hand. And he said, "Hey, Holmes, I respect you more than everybody on this yard." He said, "Because you grilled me." He said, "I know what time it is. I've been to the bay." He goes, "You grilled me. You did what you were supposed to do." He said, "I had an issue coming in." He said, "All these vatos that voted that I didn't have an issue coming, if I wouldn't have been out here right now, they would have voted I had an issue coming. But because I was out here, they peed." He said, "So I respect you. I got no hard feelings." I said, "All right, cool." We shook hands. That was it. The disdain that vato had for them, he showed it to them. And vatos would come to me, younger dudes, and were like, "Hey, I think I made a mistake." I said, "Then you did." I said, "I know you did. You don't have the right to overrule a legend. Their rules are their rules. They set them in place for a reason, but there's nobody here to enforce them." I could have went out and whacked the dude, but it could have got really ugly. We had all agreed that it was going to be majority rules. But it was funny to watch this dude after walk around the yard peacocking, chest out, and look at these dudes like, "You guys are suckers." And he treated me like, "Hey, buenos dias." Every time, "Hey, buenos dias, homie, how you doing? Buenas tardes. Hey, how you doing, man?" The rest of these vatos was like, that was the weirdest place I ever did time, man. I'll tell you that right now. I even add a little tidbit in. Maybe a couple. Let's start with this one. You know, when you get to a place, let's say I meet you in a joint, and we do time together. We're on the yard together for a year. And I see you do a pegada, get away with it, whatever. But you're with it, right? 2 years down the line, and this is something that happened. 2 years down the line, you wind up in oil. This is what happened. I was in New Folsom with a cat. He was feeding me. He was a bully, but he was feeding me, or at least he tried to be a bully. I should tell a funny story about him trying to bully a bulldog. It didn't work out for him. But anyways, he lands in oil with us, right? Tehachapi. So whenever a new bus comes, we get their names, we get their paperwork, we look through their paperwork, and then you're gonna go to the yard. Again, like I said, normally they're not gonna be out there the first, maybe even the second yard, right? And then people are gonna, "Hey, who knows these vatos? Hey, anybody know any of these dudes?" And I remember, like I said, this vato, he came and I knew him, but I knew him a few years prior. So they were like, "Hey, Holmes, this vato came. Anybody know him?" I said, "Yeah, I know him." And they're like, "Well, you knew him?" I said, "Yeah, I know him." "What's up with him?" I said, "Well, we were in New Folsom together. The vato was all right. He was with it, but I mean, a few years have passed. I don't know what he's been up to since." "All right, Holmes." Then we have another dude, and he's like, "Oh, I know him. That's a feed, man, homie, this and this and that." And in my head, I'm like, this fucking idiot. So I asked him, like, "Wait, where do you know him from?" He's like, "The county jail." And I was like, "How long you been down?" He's like, "Oh, 5 years." Okay. So after the junta broke up, I pulled him to the side and I said, "Hey, homie, how long ago were you around that dude?" He's like, "Oh, probably like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. They've been down 5 years. I don't know. Maybe they're in the county together a few years." But he's like, "Yeah, a few years ago." I said, "You realize you just co-signed for him, right?" And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "If that vato turns out to be complete garbage, they let him out in the yard and he's out here kicking it because you co-signed. You're allowed out here. You got cleared. You're doing time with us. But you co-signed for that vato. And if it comes out that something's dirty with him, you're probably going to get whacked with him, man." "Oh, no, but hey, owns it." And I was like, "Did you hear what I said?" I knew this vato. He was feeding me. Probably, I would think he's probably still feeding me based on who he was then. But I'll be a damn fool if I say, hey, Holmes, that's the homie right there, Holmes. That Vato, man, hey, nah. I don't know what could have happened 6 months ago, a week ago. I don't know. I'm not co-signing. Those are little things that go on in prison, man, that can become very, very dangerous. I don't know. I think this video, I know you guys say you guys like when I do the long videos. Some people say that it's kind of like a movie. That's cool. I appreciate that, man. But it is harder for me to do the long videos for whatever reason. And I have several other stories that I could tell you guys regarding Tehachapi if you guys are interested. Like I said, it was the weirdest place I ever did time. And part of it was because it was a junkyard. Vatos, there were several vatos there that had been to the Bay, been to the Shoe, been to Corcoran, knew what time it was. And because they knew what time it was, they didn't want to have nothing to do with that type of yard, that type of headache, that type of ad say. It could get you in some trouble really quick. And not only that, it will get you validated. And you didn't want to get validated for stupid shit. It was a bad look. You know, but anyways, I was going to do 2 other stories. I just gave you that other one. And, you know, apply that out here. Be mindful of who you speak highly of if you haven't been around them. And always remember that your interactions with somebody are yours. Those are personal interactions. A person may respect you enough to treat you in a way that they don't treat anyone else. It's Saturday. It's 420. Be careful out there, you guys. You want to have a little celebration. You want to have a good time. Do that. Do that with the right people. Everybody, please be safe. Be smart and tell the ones you love that you love them, right? I'm out of here.